Good morning, Year 10. Sorry for the very slow sort of upload of the video. It's been a bit of a trying time, sort of technically wise, as far as the bits and pieces are concerned. But hopefully this should go over everything we need. I'm going to start out with technologystudent.com because it being our theory lesson today, it's the usual types of bits and pieces where I am hoping that you're going to create a few paragraphs with images of a few different little bits regarding wood treatments. Now, finishes for wood. We've got this. If I put finishes for wood in here, you can see, the types of things that are going to pop. You've got like sort of varnish, wax, staining it, polishing it, polyurethane, blah, 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 all of those different types of stuff. But you have to ask, why do you bother even bothering to actually stain wood in the first place or cover it? Why do you need to do this? Well, the main reason is this type of thing. If you don't actually stain or protect wood in some way, it being a natural material, it ends up rotting. Now, there's different types of wood and they all have different properties, just like everything else in the world. But and this means that you might have to treat them in different ways. And indeed, some woods are naturally more resistant to corrosion. For example, things like oak has a natural sort of antifungal agent in it. Fungus being one of the main things that rots down wood. You can see that, these buildings here, if something is left untreated, then the moisture will get into it, and therefore the microbes, the fungus, and everything else will do their natural sort of job, because that's what they're there for. They're there to actually start breaking down rotten dead trees, just like everything else, and to recycle it into soil and into the environment. So if we're going to make a house out of it or anything else, we have to protect against that natural kind of system attacking it. So you can see with this type of thing, we've got the gable end of a house. It's obviously not been protected particularly well. It's exposed to the weather, so wind, rain, snow, hail, you type of thing will also abrase it and will also damage it, and it's starting to rot down. So we've got to try to think about what we can do to stop things from rotting down, specifically with wood. And there's different types of treatments that you can use. Now I'm going to go over 4 of them, which I've asked you to do, and that is to paint it, to stain it, to varnish it, and to wax it. All of them do a similar type of thing, but they do it in different ways. And what it is it's creating a layer over it, or some sort of layer that is going to resist that breakdown, the microbes, the fungus, and the weather from attacking the wood. Often they need to be reapplied, and it is something which we have to do on a regular basis, especially if you're dealing with wood. So, one of the reasons I would say we're going to be using technologystudent.com and not good old YouTube is because, yes, you can search on YouTube, why paint wood, and it doesn't really give you that much, because YouTube's great for instructional videos. Education-wise, as to reasons why, not always the best thing in real practice. So what we are going to be doing instead is, I would always say, and this is a good site just generally, is to have a look at engineering, technologystudent.com. So technologystudent.com, and just give that a bit of a look, because it's a really good website generally for just about everything to do with engineering, product design, you name it. But it's particularly good for us to have a look for these types of things and to produce your paragraphs. Now, down at the bottom here, it's got a little Google search thing, very traditional in the way it's laid out. You want to make sure that it's clicked, the radio button is clicked for technologystudent.com, and then you can just search, and hey presto, you'll bring up all the different bits and pieces for, say, in this case, natural wood and wax finishes. It'll bring up these, and this is one I'm going to go on to, each an individual one, and it gives you a sort of breakdown of all the reasonings behind it, why we go into it. With regards to the first one, with if we're thinking about painting it, so if we're actually painting wood, and why you actually put paint onto wood, so if you paint wood, then this is the type of thing you're going to get. And this is often used, here's in a great way, how to paint wood furniture. Upcycling, I think Kirsty Allsop calls it, where she takes a piece of old furniture and she paints it, puts new handles on it, and oh look, upcycling from something that, oh I don't like that, or to, oh brilliant, I'll pay a few £100 for that. That type of thing, you've probably seen it before. But the reason that we actually apply a paint finish is to protect the wood itself, as well as for aesthetic reasons. And paint is a very useful product that's been around for a long time, because not only does it coat and cover up the wood, therefore protecting it from the elements, it also gives that look and feel. So you can decide on what colours you want for your particular paint and for your wood, and it makes it look dramatically different than it would do if it was more of a natural finish. So paint is great for that one. And as you will see on technologystudent.com, it comes in different types, because these days you get water-based acrylic emulsions, and you also get more solvent-based, so oil-based ones. Now the difference between these, they do the same type of job, but the water-based ones are far nicer to the environment. They're nicer to us using them, because you can wash your brushes, wash you, and it comes off. Whereas something that's oil-based, obviously oil and water don't mix. It's very difficult to clean them up, and they can have what we call volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, which is really, if you ever used a paint that's oil-based, that horrible sort of smell is the actual vapor, the volatile compounds coming off it. So this is evaporating off as the paint cures and sets. And while oil-based paints are a lot harder and a lot harder wearing and produce a glossier finish, they are more difficult to apply and can have a bit more of an unpleasant effect on the environment. So that's that's paint. We can also think about staining the wood. Now, staining a wood is literally just taking something which is almost like an ink. It can be a bit more like paint, like you can see just here. And what that does is it changes the colour of the actual wood itself. So you may well start off with something which is very light, but the stain can be used to make it look like a different type of wood. So you can make it look more expensive. For example, here we've got some quite cheap pine, a softwood, cheap to buy and also to use and create items out of. But sometimes people don't particularly like the look of it. It's got this very open grain. So what you can do is you can stain it to make it look like other stuff. So here we've got something, a darker stain, and it can make it look like more like an oak. Now stains resist corrosion. They're very good for soaking into the wood and giving it sort of antifungal characteristics. They're not as good as paint in that the layer that they produce is more sinks into the surface, so it's not necessarily as good as paint sometimes, but that depends on the paint, the stain, and the application. The main thing is that they are about changing the aesthetics as well as treating the wood as well. And again, if you just go on to here and you put in stain wood, it'll bring all those bits and pieces up so you can have a look at it. Varnishing, again, this is a similar one to the staining in that what it does is it gives a layer of, just like paint, it gives a layer over the top which protects it from those outside elements. It stops some water and the fungus and other bits and pieces getting into the wood, so it protects it and preserves it. At the same time, it can give this very sort of glossy finish to things. So you've got something where you've got a very sort of glossy finish. Doesn't have to, because it can actually be a sort of matte finish, but a lot of them are quite glossy and look. And you can see the difference between polyurethane varnish and shellac. Polyurethane is a type of plastic, so it's a petrochemical. Just like we had with the wood, the oil-based paints, it's a petrochemical, and it goes very sort of hard. So it gives it this very clear plastic layer, if you like, over the top that protects our wood underneath. And it can also include a little bit of a stain so that it can make it a different colour, but quite a lot of the time it's more of a clear varnish with just a hint of something, and they come in a different sort of effects. And finally, we've got more of a natural product, which is waxing. Now, wax, you should all be quite, used to thinking about what wax is, and most of them you will think about a candle, and that type of wax is a petrochemical. So you've got petroleum based wax in there, so you've got that kind of petroleum based wax. In other words, it comes from crude oil, so it's not a natural product. But what it can do is it, again, like the sort of stain, soaks into the wood, and wax obviously resists moisture. It also has sort of antifungal compounds in it and other chemicals in it, so that it will stop the wood from rotting. And it can be put on, and you can see here we've got a beeswax and a raw wood. You can put on and it protects that wood and enhances the grain of it. I think that's one of the most important things about wax, is that it actually enhances the grain, makes it look really nice, and it sort of makes that sort of stand out, and it's got quite a natural sort of appearance to it. You'll notice here and on that last one, you've got a sort of beeswax, and in fact actually waxing different bits and pieces, like for example with this, means that it brings out the grain of it and it produces quite a nice effect. So it really enhances the look of wood, as well as protecting it. So those are the 4 kinds of applications for different types of coverings for wood. What I'd like you to do is to do the 4 paragraphs. Use technologystudent.com. It really is the best place to go for all of these bits and pieces. There really is loads and loads of bits on these and how to actually use them. And again, don't forget that you need to go down to the bottom, click that radio button and stick it in there. Just needs to be in your own words, that sort of paragraph with some nice images. Upload it. I know that I did say that I was going to do a video about all the bits and pieces we did for our rendering exercise from last week. I haven't had a chance to do that one thing and another, but I will try and do that hopefully after this, just to give you some sort of feedback on it, and I will upload that to Teams. At the moment, this microphone, of course, is not working on my laptop, so I'm have to use it on the desktop, and I haven't got Teams on here, so there's a little bit of a toing and froing, but I will try and sort it out for you. Anyway, thanks very much everyone for all your hard work, and I'm hoping you're keeping yourself safe, that you had a nice sort of extra Friday off, and who knows, I may even see you soon in the future. Take care everyone, and speak to you soon. Bye.